Monopoly is a board game which I'm sure many of us have played at one point or another. As you proceed around the Monopoly board through the streets of London, from Old Kent Road right round the way to Mayfair, you stop on streets, you are able to buy houses and hotels, you land on utilities. It's a fun and exciting game to play as you accumulate money, the game of Monopoly. However, one of the cards that you may pick up as you go round the Monopoly board is a community chest card. And you may be unlucky to pick up this card, the Go to Jail card. Go to jail, move directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect £200. Your heart sinks when you pick up this card in playing Monopoly. However, as you proceed around the Monopoly board from Old Kent Road through the streets of London to Mayfair, you may be fortunate enough to land on a chance square. And you may be fortunate enough to pick up this card. Get out of jail free. Get out of jail free. It's a good card to pick up when you're playing Monopoly. Get out of jail free. Well, get out of jail free is the appropriate theme for our reflections this week, as together we journey with Peter from Fisherman to Founder, and journey with Peter through his miraculous escape from prison. His miraculous escape from prison. The term get out of jail free has become a popular metaphor to get you out of an undesirable situation. And Peter was in an undesirable situation. He was shackled in a dank and no doubt damp and dirty prison cell. And as we dig into the exciting narrative of Acts chapter 12, which chronicles for us the account of Peter's miraculous escape from prison, we're going to look with Peter at how all that happened. How Peter got out of jail free. Well, it was by the power of the Holy Spirit and the power of God that Peter got out of jail free. But how was Peter in jail, in prison, in the first place? Well, for two reasons. Peter had been put in prison because of the persecution of Herod. The persecution of Herod. And it's the persecution of Herod we want to hone in on as we begin our journey this week with Peter in his miraculous escape from prison. Now, the Herod that we read of here in Acts chapter 12 is not the same Herod that we read of when Jesus was born. The Herod that we're reading of here in Acts chapter 12 is the first grandson, the grandson of Herod the Great. He's the grandson of the Herod that we read of in the time of Jesus. But this Herod was just as bad as his grandfather. This Herod was not in any way kind or merciful. This Herod wanted to deal with those who were preaching and teaching the gospel. In the preceding chapter to Acts chapter 12, we read of the church at Antioch and of how the church at Antioch was growing, how the disciples were maturing, how good things and exciting things were happening. People were coming to Christ. People were being saved and being baptized and being nurtured. The church would have been meeting in homes and no doubt reaching out into the Antioch community. However, news of this clearly got to Herod. And it was politically convenient for Herod to deal with Peter by putting him in prison. In other words, to persecute Peter, to try and silence Peter, as it were, the lead figure, the great preacher of the day. Just a few chapters earlier, we read of the first Christian martyr, Stephen, having been stoned for his good confession. Jesus had warned his disciples, had warned Peter, that to be a disciple, to follow him, would not be easy, that there would be persecution. And now Peter finds himself persecuted. Peter finds himself about to be put to death by the sword because it was politically convenient for Herod to do that. Herod could have been dealing with a very unpredictable mob, and therefore he waited till the Passover was over, until things had quietened down a little bit, until the crowds had disappeared, before dealing with Peter. And the interesting thing, as we read of the persecution of Herod and Peter having been thrown in prison, was that when Peter was in prison, both of his wrists were shackled, were changed. A soldier was at either side. Normally, just one guard, one soldier would have been enough to be shackled to one soldier. However, Herod, because of Peter's good confession and his good reputation, wanted to be absolutely sure that Peter could not get out of jail free. So Peter has been shackled to two soldiers. He's been thrown in prison. However, Peter was to get out of jail free, because there was a king greater than King Herod, greater than Herod, who was going to do just that. Join me tomorrow in Teaching Truth as we look at the prayers of the church, which provided the fuel along with the Holy Spirit to get Peter out of jail free.